Hey Freedom Family, this is Pastor Kathy here. Welcome back to part 2 as we walk through how do we grow closer to God. If you were with us on Tuesday, you saw that we're actually breaking up this teaching into 3 different parts. The video got a bit long, so we're going to break it up. Today we're going to look into and jump into part 2, these outward expressions in ways that we can purpose ourselves to grow closer in our walk with God as we examine spiritual discipline. Stay tuned for what we have to share. Let's go into the next category, the outward category. So Foster lists something called simplicity. Simplicity, not allowing our life to be filled with things that are unnecessary, that can cause us to be overwhelmed, but that we keep things simple. I'm not saying necessarily minimal, that's not necessarily, but the simplicity of things, that we practice simplicity and allow the main thing to be the main thing. We can be so bombarded and overwhelmed by stuff and by goals and by whatever that this world and people tell us we ought to be doing and accomplishing and fulfilling. But I'm here to just say and suggest, allow God to be the one to lead you in every aspect of your life. Work to not pursue things and take things on your plate unless God has directed you to do it. Seek the Lord about it before you commit to it, so that your life can be full of the things that God is calling it to be full of, and not cluttered with things that don't really matter. And then he says that the discipline of simplicity is an inward reality that results in an outward lifestyle. Both inward and outward aspects of simplicity are really important. And we deceive ourselves if we believe that we can possess the inward reality without it having an effect on the way that we live. So honestly, it's to say that what comes in us eventually comes out of us. And if we think that that's not true, he's saying we have deceived ourselves. All right, the next one that we're going to move on to is solitude. Solitude is simply having time when it's just you and God. And that's intentional time. That's not just happen to be by yourself, which we can happen to be by ourselves. But if we've not purposed that time in terms of being with God, then it's not a spiritual discipline of solitude. And without silence, Foster says there is no solitude. Through silence, though silence sometimes involves the absence of speech, it always involves the act of listening. I think that's super helpful. So simply to refrain from talking without a heart of listening to God is not silence. So it's not only to have time where we're away from people, to be with just us and God, but is the act of being silent, stilling ourselves, our mind, our spirit, and allowing God to be able to pour into us, and we have ears to hear. You know, one of the things, this is one that I practice on a regular basis, and I'm so grateful for, and I find that if I haven't had it in my day feels a bit off. But I have really made, over these last few years, my car really my sanctuary. It seems so hard at times to be able to find spaces and places and times to break away. So when I'm driving someplace, a lot of times these days, I am not listening to the radio. I'm not listening to a podcast. When I'm in the car by myself, I'm spending that time with just God and me. I may be spending that time in prayer, but I'm also spending that time listening and just communing with the Father. That's something for me, who I don't have a traditional 9-to-5 job. I don't have an office at home. That is, sometimes I have 2 young kids. It has felt hard to find some time for myself, but that's one of the spaces that God has given me. All right, we have simplicity, we have solitude, and now we have submission. Submission is this ability to be able to lay your burdens down before the Lord. It is to be able to give over and to submit. This discipline, it's a discipline, something that we practice on a regular basis, of giving it to God, of giving it over to God. People spend weeks, months, and even years perpetually stewing over stuff, brewing over stuff, being angry and mad, and because some little thing that didn't go the way that they wished it to go. And they will be angry and have fumes and fuss. They'll get mad about it, and they'll act like if their life hangs on it. And they may even get stomach issues and ulcers and be stressed out and lose sleep. But in the discipline of submission, we're released to let these things go, to drop the matter and to forget it. And really, most things in life are not really as important as they seem they are. Our lives will not come to an end if this thing does or does not happen. Our biblical understanding for submission comes from Mark chapter 8, verse 34. If any man will come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross and follow me. Jesus calls us to self-denial, and self-denial is simply a way coming to understand that we do not have to have our own way. Our happiness is not dependent upon getting what we want. I need to say that again. Our happiness is not dependent upon getting what we want. This is the ability to release things and let it go. It is the discipline. It is the practice, not holding on to things, not letting things brew and stew within you, but to give them over to God and let it be. Submission. All right, the last one for this category is service. It's just simply to serve others, to take the focus off of ourselves, to use our gifts and our talents as in consistent ways and disciplined manners to serve others. Service is the most, Foster says, conducive way to grow us in humility. And don't all of us need to continue to be pruned in our humility? Nothing disciplines the inordinate desires of our flesh like service. And nothing transforms the desires of the flesh like serving in hiddenness. So really the discipline of service has to do with giving ourselves to others for the glory of God, for God's kingdom. God has given each of us gifts, talents, and abilities. How are you serving others with them? Or are you keeping them to yourself? Hey family, I hope that teaching about the outward expressions of disciplines and ways that we can use and cultivate our relationship with God was helpful for you. Hey, if it was, will you drop us a message in the comments? Will you like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel? We can't wait till you come back and join us next Tuesday for our third part, our last part, as we talk about corporate aspects of disciplines. We'll see you next week.